right there. Hey, nice to meet everybody. I'll jump right in, and if I talk too fast, just ask me to slow down. I did found the Artist Evolution. I'm the CEO of this agency here in Northwest Arkansas, and I've had the chance to review and audit over 1,000 brands in the past decade. And what that's done is allowed me to find some common crisis points and common points in marketing when they're done right, we see traction. And when they're not done correctly, we see brands get paused and have trouble growing and not sure why with their marketing. So I wanted to go over those 5 crisis points today. I wanted to start with a quick story because I like to tell stories, and sometimes that helps me make it more relevant. And I want to tell you about a time when I was 8 years old. And my mom had one of these cars that every car she ever had this exact same feature, no matter which one she bought. And that was that when we saw a yard sale, it would automatically pull over and we would get ejected and we would have to yard sale shop. Anybody else have a family relative like that? We were yard sale shoppers. One particular time, 8 years old, I had $5 in my pocket and my brother had $5. And I walked around the corner at this estate sale in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and the stars aligned for me. And there was a duck, a real duck, had a little string on its web foot, and the stars aligned for me. And I said, Mom, I have to have that. She knew something I didn't apparently. And she said, are you sure you need that, Derek? I said, I got to have it. So I talked my brother into buying it, and my mom let us buy this duck for $10. We threw it in the back of our yard sale chariot, which was a 1984 Oldsmobile station wagon with the wood paneling. You remember those? And about the time, has anybody ever experienced buyer's remorse? You know that feeling where the purchase was more fun than actually getting the product? 8 years old was my first time I experienced that. And about that time, we named them Quackers. Quackers flew out of the box of the car, flew around the car, and as an 8-year-old, it felt like an albatross just taking over my life and ruining it. We were able to safely get Quackers out of the car to the neighbor's pond where he lived out his days, a nice long life, but not with us. That's made such an impact on my life that when I talk with clients, we always talk about not buying a duck. And I'm trying to actually change this. Go to the next slide here. Here we go. And even wrote a book that hit bestseller called Don't Buy a Duck. Stop wasting money and only do marketing that works. The whole premise of this is around those 5 crisis points in marketing that we're going to talk about and the 1,000 brands that I've reviewed that have these same common challenges. See, kind of like that duck and these impulse purchases, you're going to get hit every single day. Does this sound familiar with your organization where you get hit with an opportunity to do the yellow pages, or you get hit with an opportunity to do a magazine ad, or to sponsor the sports team, or sponsor a client sports team, or do radio, or Yelp, or what are we supposed to do? How often should I be posting on Twitter? Am I supposed to do Facebook? Do I do paid ads? What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to spend these limited resources? In the 1960s, there was 5 marketing channels. Pretty easy to be a marketer back then. You pick one of the 5 channels, right? 2015 and beyond, there's over 70. So where do we spend our money? How do we get traction? And how do we do marketing that actually works? Well, that's what I teach, is how to simplify it, look at the crisis points, and get results. Many of you have probably seen many of these options here in the sponsorship opportunities, and it can be overwhelming sometimes. So we end up seeing a couple of categories of marketers. Either they're like an ostrich and they put their head in the sand because they've been burned in the past, and they say, I'm just not going to do it, I'm going to hope for the best. Or they're distracted and they just don't know where to spend. Or they outspend. We've seen people that just start spending because they're not sure. If they get a grant or whatever they get, they just put it out there and hope they get results. The last category is the one we like to see, and that's where they're more strategic and intentional and therefore in control of their spending and in their marketing to get better output. We call it Band-Aid marketing, where if you're not sure what to do, you just throw something and hope it sticks. That's not cost effective. It's confusing to your audience, and then it doesn't build trust or value or recognition. So we don't recommend that. So let's talk about the 5 crisis points. One is a spelling error I have here. So who am I? Who are they? What are your marketing tools? What's your plan? And what's your execution? And I'm going to go over each of those. And I'm telling you that from nonprofits to dentists, to Princeton University, to Domino's, to all types of clients that we worked with, we found when we fix one of these types of these 5 crisis points, when we start to see get good results. So we call it the identity crisis, a brand's Bermuda Triangle, when the brand is trying to figure out, who am I really? And this is really important. So before we ever do any marketing or advertising, when somebody comes to us and says, should I do Facebook? We say, well, first let's take a step back and make sure you understand these 5 things before we spend anything, before we do anything or recommend anything. So first is you want to really know who you are. What is it that makes you really different? What do you do well? What do you want to be known for? See, branding is simply what people know about you. That's all branding actually is. People try to complicate branding, but branding is just, what does someone know about you? So you have a chance to shape how people know you and what they know about you. And that's one of the intentional early things we like to see a company do, an organization do, is to say, here's what I do well, here's the core things we're going to offer. And then an important one is to say, what moods or emotions do I want the customer to experience anytime they interact with our brand? And are we delivering on that? If we want warm and inviting and educational and inspiring, are we delivering on that intentionally? Because you can. You again get to shape that. And then the big thing is what really makes you unique. We call it unique value or unique selling proposition. What is it that's hard for others to duplicate? So if you're an event center and they could go to 3 or 4 different places, why would they pick you? What makes you unique that makes it hard for those other facilities to copy, all things being equal? Basically, you want to know who you are so that you can tell others and so that they'll recognize your signature and your brand. When you really understand who you are and you can articulate it, here's when you interact with us, here's what you're always going to experience. Here's the emotions you're going to experience, the moods, the adjectives, here's the things that will happen. Then it makes it easier for your referrals to refer you because they can keep you top of mind and tip of tongue and use the right words to share with you. And those words will resonate with others that are a good fit for you. The next thing is, as part of knowing who you are, is understanding who your competition is. And we won't stay on this long, but we like to go deep and understand what your competition is doing as far as their testimonials, their blogs, their PR, their social media. What is it they're doing out in the community, and how are they doing it, and how are they doing it well, and what areas can they improve on? And that's not so that you can copy them, but it's so you know where there's a gap in the marketplace. See, our customers have so much noise hitting them. We get hit with thousands of advertisements a day. That's right, thousands. Thousands. We don't even notice it anymore. It just hits us everywhere we're going. And so to cut through the clutter, we have to be able to go in a spot, go where there's space where we can make a relevant connection. And that's why it makes it important to know who you are, understanding who your competition is and what they're doing. And then who are they? And I'm not talking about just saying, well, our target are businesses. You want to narrow it down more than that. That's the second crisis point. We often see that organizations don't really understand the customer that they want to reach out to. They haven't really taken time. See, if you're in a relationship and that's what it is when you have a customer, think about your significant other. I bet you know a lot of things about them, don't you? I bet you know their birthday. I bet you know their political affiliation. You probably should. I bet you know where they live, obviously. And you probably know things deeper too, what they would like for their birthday. Well, think of that same type of relationship, how you make an emotional connection with your significant other because you understand them. That's how much you want to understand your target customer. Because when you build a relationship, that's when you have something very meaningful that's lasting. And that's no different with your target customer. Look at these examples. You know their gender, their income, their ethnicity, their marital status, their religion, education, what stage of life they're in. That's important, right? You're going to talk to somebody in different stages of life differently. Their hobbies, their buying patterns, even political affiliations. Think again to a relationship with your significant other, and then think about your customer, and think how well do you know them to where you understand what matters to them in their world. These two things we talked about, who are you and who are they, are often overlooked. We've seen clients, we've seen people that we work with, businesses we work with, be wandering around the desert for 40 years. It feels like 4 or 5 years before they realize these things. And when we fix it, they start to get more traction because then we better know who we're talking to, better know who we are. And that just helps when you start to do your marketing to get better communication. And effective communication is where you can break through the clutter with a relevant message to them that resonates with them and then motivates them to respond. Target segmentation, that's where we identify specific groups within our target. So you can't talk to everybody the same all the time. Based on what we learned earlier is if you really know your customer, there might be different types of customers that need to be talked to differently. So it's not one size fits all. Some of your customers might need your services for different reasons. So when you understand them really well, you're able to better talk to them. And then you can pick the right types of customers. We like to profile the types of customers that you want. And you can actually, when you understand who they are, better talk to them. I'm going to skip past that one. I want to talk about marketing tools. The third crisis point we see is marketing tools. And when I say marketing tools, I mean your website, your social media pages, maybe your brochure that you have. It might even be your logo. But think of the materials, the tools you're using to talk about your brand. Often we see a gap between the quality of service that an organization is offering. So let's say what you're offering is way up here. You're unique, you're different. You know who your target is. What you're offering is amazing. But then you build these materials that just aren't very good quality and they're down here. So how is your target customer going to perceive you if you're building materials that aren't very good, but your brand value is really up here? So we've often seen people build campaigns and instead of fixing their tools, they'd kind of dumb down the campaign to match the existing tools they have. So the idea is, what are marketing tools? Anything that's necessary for your communication, from your business cards, to your brochures, to your videos, social media pages. That's basically what we're talking about when we say tools. So I recommend that you list out your tools. List out all the tools that you're using right now and take a look at them. Look at your brochure. Go to your website and say, does this match what we've been trying to tell our customers about what we do? And if it doesn't, I strongly recommend that you look at fixing those and making the quality of them better, where you're making a good emotional connection, where you're clearly stating the value of what you do, and then where the look and feel of your materials is the quality of what you're offering. The next thing is having a marketing plan. If your marketing is not going according to plan, maybe it's because you don't have a plan. So we talked about knowing who you are, knowing who your customer is, using the right tools, and then having a plan. Without a plan, we don't know where we're going, right? So we like to build an integrated marketing campaign. I'm going to show you a couple of examples of this, but here's how we look at marketing campaigns. We look at them in 3 buckets, 3 categories, always. External, internal, and then a blue skies category. And I'll tell you what those mean. The external part is, here's all the things that we're doing to drive new customers, what we call new customer acquisition. Everything here, everything we do in activities and money and spending and resources here on this side is all towards driving new customers. That's the external campaign in your marketing plan. The next one is your internal. That is, what are we doing to retain our customers? Because if you've taken the effort to build a relationship and they like you, they're 80% more likely to buy from you again or to use your other services. So a lot of times we see organizations just keep trying to go after new, and not taking the time to nurture their existing relationships who are likely to refer them and are likely to use their services for other reasons. So the internal marketing is important as well. And the last category is what we call blue skies or goodwill. What are you doing on an ongoing basis to continue to have your brand associated with giving back in the community, with looking out for others, with spotlighting others? And so there's the building new customers, retaining customers, and maintaining our brand to make sure that we're out there in the community and that we're visible. In the blue skies category, we're not necessarily trying to drive new customers. We just want to be visible in a meaningful way. And it's important to distinguish those in a marketing campaign so that when you're putting efforts on the blue skies category, you're not expecting a direct return of new customers. You just know that you're trying to keep your brand front and present to your target customers. This is an example, may look like an intimidating one, but here's an example of just a sample plan where you can see a visual of how an integrated campaign works, where this example customer has an internal campaign where they're doing newsletters and they're doing satisfaction surveys after an event to make sure their customers are happy. And they're involved in other nonprofits. They're sending press releases out about activities that they're doing. They have formal staff trainings and reviews. They have a referral program going, and that's just in their internal category. On the print side, maybe they're involved in some magazines and some brochures that they're doing, maybe some direct response mail. They're involved with the Chamber of Commerce, which is a great fit for many nonprofits to be involved with e-blasts and ribbon cuttings and other involvement. Maybe they're doing some traditional radio or TV. And then some of their online strategies, they have a good website with landing pages about some of their services. They're doing video testimonials. They're active on social media. And then they have content they're doing that they're putting out about their brand, about their services, and they're sharing it out on different social media platforms. You can see how all these work together. See, we like to have an integrated campaign, and here's the biggest reason. A lot of times your customers are not going to buy after they interact with you one time. In fact, for websites, most visitors of websites, 98% don't buy the first time. They come back later. So we like to create multiple touch points so that your ideal customer kind of brushes up against you multiple times in their world. So when they're brushing up against you multiple times, you stay top of mind and tip of tongue, and they're more likely to recall you when they want to use your services, or they're more likely to trust you when they see your services or your ad or your brochure because they've seen you somewhere else already and they're starting to build a relationship with you. Marketing is every bit of contact that your company makes with anyone in the outside world. Anyone from your company to theirs. There's a beginning and a middle, but there's no ending. So I want to talk just another second about internal marketing, looking to build a better customer experience and focusing on your internal before your external. I call it holes in the bucket if you're not watching your internal marketing. You can keep trying to fill it with new customers, but if you have holes in your internal marketing and it's leaking out, you're never actually filling up and you're not getting the meaningful traction you need. In some markets, in some industries, and many of yours as well, there's a finite number of people that you can actually outreach to. At a certain point, when you've reached everybody, you've reached everybody. You're not going worldwide necessarily with your service. And so it makes it even more important to make sure that your relationships are being retained. Make new friends, but retain the old friends. The last category is execution. And execution really is everything. I like to use football analogy sometimes. I want you to think about when you have a marketing plan, and this is what we like to do in a plan. And let me share this first. When I talk about a marketing plan, I'm talking about very specific things. And it can be as simple as writing on a piece of paper. But if you don't have one, I want to strongly recommend that you make one. You want to get very specific with it. So you might say, every day I want to do one social media post, or I want to post 3 times a week. And we want to put one press release out each month. And we want to send an email newsletter out once a month. But write those things out. And then without fail, you want to do them. Those are 2 words that we use at our agency and that I use in my life, and the mantra of what I do is without fail, meaning we're going to get it done no matter what, always, because that's how we get results. Creativity in marketing is great, but creativity means nothing unless it meets implementation and consistent execution. And that's where we see most campaigns fail, is on the execution side. So we're very, very heavy about doing the heavy lifting of your campaigns. Once you start, don't stop. Don't stop. Follow your marketing calendar, and then you will reap the rewards of consistency. And the football analogy, everybody likes to see the throw where there's a Hail Mary and it goes 90 yards and they make the touchdown. Or when somebody receives the kickoff and they run for 80 yards and make a touchdown. But those aren't most of the plays, are they? Most of the time when you watch a game, you see a quarterback and you see a team who are trying to make first downs. Because first downs get you farther down the field. And each time you look back, you've made progress and you're closer to the end zone, closer to scoring. And that is how execution relates to marketing, is you want to continually make first downs. And that's what you get when you keep doing the things on your calendar without fail. That's how you start to see progress. You always reap the rewards of consistency when you do that. One of the acronyms that I like to use is PEPMAG, and this is my last slide. And it's plan, execute, track. So you want to track your results. Measure. You want to measure how you're doing. Make adjustments as you need to. And that's when you start to see growth. We use this model in every campaign that we do. And that's how we start to get results. And we'll go through it for a minute. We talked about making a plan and how important it is to have a plan. Or here's the things that we're going to do. Here's the 5 or 6 things that we're going to do consistently without fail. We're going to execute it. On execution, here's my recommendation. If you don't have a team, you won't be able to execute. So I recommend you identify who your team is going to be and say, here's who the number 1 is going to be on this. Here's who's responsible for execution in each of these areas. If you don't have someone managing social media, get somebody. And then they know I'm the number 1 on this. If it doesn't happen, it stops with me. And if you have your team clearly identified and they know that they're responsible for those specific actions, you have a better chance of being successful. Number 3 is track. I've been surprised at how many campaigns don't track. If you have a website, you can have Google Analytics on it. That will tell you how many people are visiting. If you're using Facebook, you can place Facebook ads. You can look at the back end of Facebook. You can see numbers that tell you who's participating and how much they're participating. So we can let our marketing work for us. We can make it hold us accountable for results because we can see with the numbers on most things we do now whether it's working or not. And so we take the emotion out of marketing and we become more strategic by putting a good plan in place, making sure we execute it with a good team, keep tracking. We don't have to get emotional if we don't like the results. We can measure and we can make adjustments. And when we continue to do this, we continue to hit our objective each time in our marketing. That's all I've got for you guys. Again, the 5 points are: who am I? Understanding who your brand is. Who are they? Really identifying and relating to your target customers. Making sure you're using the right tools. Take a look at the tools you're using, your brochures, your other materials. Make a plan and action on it, and then have consistent execution. Those 5 things are where we see brands and organizations get traction, when they have a commitment in their marketing to those 5 areas.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have some time for questions. Let me see. We have about 10 minutes. You can unmute yourself unless you're on the telephone. I don't know if you can do that. But the rest of you, there should be a microphone on your screen. On computers, it's in the lower left-hand corner. Probably has a dash through it if you're muted. You can click on that and unmute yourself if you have questions for Derek. This is our time for question and answers. There actually is a chat question that just came up. Is anyone using Retreat Central out of Dallas as a referral service? And then Derek Kelly, Kathy, I'm sorry, asked, do you have a market plan template?
We actually do. We have a couple of things, and one of them we have is a free resource that is a marketing plan calendar. We also have a template at our, and I'll give a quick plug for it, but we have our, we have our champagnemarketingcourses.com, which is where we go through in detail and we teach all the principles of branding and helping build out a plan. And on that, in there, we do have a longer template. But yes, I do have a marketing calendar template that I'm happy to share. And I can email that, Jesse, to you or to anybody that would like to have that.
Why don't you email it to me? Trying to figure out how folks can let me know if they want it.
I've got another option as well, which you're welcome to do. And I've got my Don't Buy a Duck book. And if you guys want to text, it's 58885. And if you text duck to that, that sends you the template resource as well.
Great.
Derek, I have a question for you.
Yes.
A lot of what you said is great. And you did mention there at the end, if you don't have somebody to do online marketing or, to handle some of those things, find somebody. And like an organization like us, I'm kind of the guy that does that, plus about 15 other hats that
right.
I have to wear. What would you suggest as far as coming up with a strategy to be able to handle all the many different areas that I need to touch, and being able to do that myself?
Yeah, that's great. And so first I would say that look at what are the top priorities that have to happen. Okay. There's always a wish list in marketing. You heard me talk about the shiny objects, and you're going to do calls like this. And a lot of times it's going to say, here's why you need to use this kind of social media or this new app or this new communication system. I get it. I get hit with those things every day as a small business owner myself. So you need to internally say, here's what the priorities I have to have are for these reasons. I either need to increase customers, or we need to increase relationships. Figure out what those 3 or 4 priorities are for you first, and really hunker down on those only for now. Because again, there's too many opportunities, and if you're the only person, if you're the primary number one for everything, you can't do it all. So, without knowing what your priorities are, we can talk about those if you like. You don't need to do all the things in marketing right now. Do the 3 or 4 things that are going to make the biggest impact for you now, and make that phase 1. And write it out, put it in a Word document, write it on a piece of paper, but then make a phase 2 and 3. And those are like, here's what I wish I had and here's why. They should normally go towards growth and strengthening relationships, and less about, well, I feel like I need to have a Twitter account. Just put those things out of your head, because you're never going to be able to keep up with all the new things that come out, because each time you master 1, 2 more will come up. And so that's my recommendation, is phase out priorities. And then you can better look at who needs to be the team on this, and can I realistically be the one that tackles all of this?
Okay, good. Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? Quiet group. Derek, if you can send me that template, I had 1 or 2 requests in the chat that I can forward on then.
Done. I'll get that over to you. I'll email that to you.
Okay. Last chance. Any questions for Derek? One came in the chat. How do we go? Oh, the PowerPoint slides. I've recorded this, so the recording will be available on the IACA webpage probably in a few weeks. We usually don't put it up right away, but it won't be too long. If you just want the slides, Derek, is that possible?
Absolutely. And I'd like to make another thing as well, if I can, is if you want to, if there's a way to share your information with me, I'd be happy to send you a free copy of my book as well, which gives a lot of the kind of information in here, but goes into a lot of detail. It's endorsed by Seth Godin, who's one of the top marketers in the world. And I think it could be a great resource for you. And I'd be happy just to give that to anyone on this call that would like it. And that would be a great resource, I think, if you want to learn more about the process. And it gives a lot more detail than we can in 15 or 20 minutes like today. So happy to share that with you.
Okay, I'm going to give everybody an email address that's pretty easy to remember. You email me, and I will pass that information on and get you the great offers that Derek just made. My rather than my work email, which is a little hard to spell it, I'm going to just give you my personal email. It's my last name, SCHLOAD @yahoo.com. If you want the marketing template or the offer of the book that he just talked about or any other information, I can easily pass that on to Derek. And so just email me. And Todd, I would encourage you to do that too, just in case I lose the little note I just made, and Kathy too as well. Any other last minute questions?
Just a comment, please, and that's to say thank you. This has been a really well-organized, well-delivered, helpful coffee break, and this is Jess's program and project, and you're doing such a great job of it, Jess. Thanks for getting Derek, and thanks for being with us, Derek. It's really helpful.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you to Jess.
Okay. All right. If there's nothing else, thanks so much for being here, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. I am actually going to be hopping in my car in a few minutes and heading towards the Sunshine State, so I'll pass some of you on the road as you're heading to Colorado, maybe. Thanks so much, Derek, and thanks, everybody. Next month, we will have a session on the same time, and it'll be on reflections on the annual conference, basically, so we'll get more information out to you on that soon. Thanks so much, and have a great day.
Thank you.